Hi guys, we're going to continue with theme 7, and in the last video we had a look at just a moment in the last center I believe we had a look at the Royal Center where we saw the Mahanavami Dibba, the Lotus Mahal and the Hazara Rama Temple. In today's video, as we continue, we're going to have a look at the Sacred Center. Basically, so far, the subtopics that we finished are political systems and administration, the city, capital and around, under which we had water resources, fortifications and urban core. And then we had a look at the Royal Center, where we saw the Mahanavami Dibba and the Lotus Mahal and the Hazara Rama Temple. Today we're going to have a look at, like I said, Sacred Center. It's believed that, I've already mentioned that the river here, the important river, was River Tungabhadra, and it's believed that the city of Hampi, the empire of Vijayanagar, was along its banks, and there were also granite hills which were surrounding this area, and it's understood that the monkey kingdom of Vali and Sugriva, especially Sugriva is a name you must be familiar with if you've read or seen the Ramayana, which of course is being aired on, I believe, DD these days, DD National, so you can definitely go have a look at it. So the characters from the Ramayana, the monkey kingdom is believed to have been situated here. Another story is that the local mother goddess, Pampa Devi, she did penance and she prayed to marry the guardian deity of the kingdom, whose name was Virupaksha, and this was just another name for Shiva. So that is the story associated. But most of the times you'll see a lot of these folklores or these religious stories associated with any of these empires, which also gives it a lot of legitimacy as well as a flowery story to then pass on to further generations. I've already told you that Vijayanagar was a Hindu kingdom, a Hindu empire in fact, amidst a lot of Muslim kingdoms, right? So it's also very interesting when here we've seen a lot of temples, which I mentioned in the last video, as well as smaller mosques, which means at the local level, I mean at the grassroots levels, we had a lot of Muslim workers, traders, merchants, and they were all living very peacefully. Why does Vijayanagar have so many, just a second. Why does Vijayanagar have so many temples? The reason, well, we already discussed so many times that the reason a lot of rulers would build temples is so that these temples would give them legitimacy. And in turn, they would then give land grants to the priests. If I'd read out from your book and to put it a little more and to articulate it a little more properly, rulers were often encouraged temple building as a means of associating themselves with the divine. Often the deity was explicitly or implicitly identified with the king, which means whichever the supreme important deity is of that region, that deity would be associated with the king, or the king would be associated with that deity, which means you could say that the king has been given divine powers, the king is from the lineage of that deity, so on and so forth. Then, well, temples also functioned as centers of learning. Besides, rulers and others often granted land and other resources for the maintenance of temples. Temples also became religious, social, cultural and economic centers. How did they become religious, social, economic, cultural centers? Well, because we've already seen how temple towns were built. We saw this in Europe, the idea of the cathedral towns. We had a look at cathedral towns in Europe. So simple idea here, temple towns being built because then a lot of people would come down to pray to the temple, and eventually merchants would start selling their produce there. Also, temples were big structures, and because they had so many rooms, apart from the priest and his followers staying there, a lot of grain could be stored there. So priests in a certain way also helped in administration of the kingdom and seeing in the distribution of food. And of course, temples were built because they helped kings in winning support and recognition for their power. The king's visit to temples were treated as important state occasions on which he was accompanied by the important nayakas or by the important chiefs of his kingdom. The subtopic under this would be gopurams and mandapas. Just pay a little close attention to why temples were considered so important, which I just told you in this video. Under gopurams and mandapas, well, what is a gopuram? So a gopuram was a massive gateway built as a mark of imperial authority. So the bigger and more majestic the gateway, it means that the king who has financed it has that much authority. A temple that we find, an important temple, is the Virupaksha temple. The Virupaksha temple has been decorated with delicately carved pillars. It was built by the front hall and the eastern gopuram for the Virupaksha temple was built by Krishna Deva Rai. The halls were used for occasions where people performed dramas and dance, and deities were made to sit there, the idols, and in a way people were entertaining the deities, and also marriages of deities. Another temple we find is the Vithala temple. The principal deity for this temple, Vithala, was a form of Vishnu. Very interestingly, we see a chariot street extending from the temple gopuram in a straight line. Architectural records reflect a creative interaction as arches, domes and walls. So especially arches and domes become important because arches would be a very Hindu form of architecture, whereas domes would be a very Islamic form of architecture. Which means that this kingdom, although it's a Hindu kingdom, it's very open to influences from other cultures. In the Virupaksha temple, we also see a lot of wall paintings. Now, the temples that we've had a look at, their gopurams were basically built by the king. However, a lot of other smaller temples that we see also had gopurams, and these gopurams a lot of times were financed by the local nayakas or the local chiefs. Again, why? For showing their power. Much later, I mean after some time, when we start modern Indian history, you'll see that a similar reason that the British built very lofty buildings in India, these magnificent huge buildings, to show that they had the authority to build them, and also to show that they had the resources and the power to actually finance something like that. So similar idea is here with the gopurams as well. Alright, our last subtopic for this chapter. Yeah, we've now come to the last subtopic, which is the economy. I'll explain the economy to you in the next video. Alright, thank you.